The shuttle doors opened with a soft hiss, and Park J stepped onto Station Orbis 7 for the first time. The air smelled different here. Clean. Too clean. Like nothing had ever lived or died in this place. He carried only a small bag over his shoulder. Everything he owned fit inside it dot around him. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved through the docking bay. Some had 4 arms. Some had scales that shimmered under the white lights. Others floated on tentacles or walked on legs that bent the wrong way. Jay had seen pictures of aliens before, but pictures did not prepare him for this. He was the only human in sight. A voice echoed through the station. All new cadets report to Processing Hall 3. Jay followed the signs. His boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. Other cadets walked beside him, but none spoke to him. A tall creature with blue skin and 4 eyes looked down at him with something like curiosity. Or maybe disgust. Jay could not tell. The Galactic Combat Academy was famous across 12 star systems. For 400 years, it had trained the best soldiers in the galaxy. Admirals, generals, and war heroes had walked these halls. And now, for the first time in history, a human had been accepted. Jay did not feel special. He felt small. In Processing Hall 3, a robot scanned his body and took his measurements. It gave him a uniform made of gray fabric that felt strange against his skin. The uniform was too big in the shoulders and too tight in the waist, but nobody seemed to care. "Human," the robot said. "You are assigned to Dormitory Block 9. Your first class begins tomorrow at 0600. Blade Combat. Blade Combat." Jay had heard about this class. Every cadet had to take it. The Academy believed that even in an age of laser weapons and plasma cannons, a soldier must know how to fight with a knife. Close combat still happened. Ships got boarded. Power systems failed. When everything else stopped working, a blade still cut. Jay knew blades. His grandmother had taught him. He found his dormitory room. It was small and gray, with a bed that folded out from the wall and a window that showed nothing but stars. He sat on the bed and looked at his hands. They were rough hands. Working hands. Back on Earth, in his small village by the sea. These hands had cleaned fish and fixed nets and held knives since he was 5 years old. His grandmother, Halmione Bong, had been the best fish cleaner in the village. Her hands had moved so fast that Jay could barely follow them. She had taught him everything. How to hold a blade. How to move with it. How to make it part of his body. "The knife is not a tool," she used to say. "The knife is you. It goes where you want it to go." Jay missed her. She had died 2 years ago, but he still heard her voice sometimes. He wondered what she would think of him now. Sitting in a space station millions of kilometers from home. About to learn how to fight from aliens who had never cleaned a fish in their lives. A knock came at his door. He opened it and found a young woman standing there. She had black hair cut short and eyes that looked tired but kind. She was human. "You're the new one," she said. "Park J, right? I'm Kim Myre. I got here 2 cycles ago." Jay felt relief wash over him. Another human. He was not completely alone. "Can I come in?" Myre asked. He stepped aside, and she walked into his room. She looked around at the bare walls and empty shelves. "You didn't bring much," she said. "I didn't have much to bring." Myre sat on the edge of his bed without asking. She seemed comfortable, like she had done this before. Maybe she visited all the new humans. Maybe he was not the first one she had welcomed. "Listen," she said. "I'm going to give you some advice. Free of charge. Don't question anything here." Jay frowned. "What do you mean?" "The instructors. The methods. The way they do things. They've been doing it for 400 years. They think they know everything. And maybe they do. But even if they don't want to hear it from us." "From humans?" from anyone, but especially from humans. We're new to the Galactic Union. 60 years. That's nothing to them. Some of these species have been spacefaring for 10,000 years. They look at us like we're children. Clever children, maybe. But children. Jay thought about this. He had never been good at keeping quiet. His grandmother used to scold him for talking back. But she had also taught him to trust his own eyes and his own hands. What if they're wrong about something? He asked. Myre laughed. It was not a happy laugh. Then they're wrong. And you keep your mouth shut. Because if you try to correct them, they'll make your life very difficult. Trust me, I learned that the hard way. She stood up and walked to the door. Before she left, she turned back to look at him. Blade combat is tomorrow. Instructor Velok. He's Rigelian. 4 arms. Very proud. Very traditional. Just do what he says and don't make trouble. What if his way is wrong? Myre shook her head slowly. Then his way is wrong, and you do it anyway. That's how you survive here, Jay. That's how you graduate. That's how you go home. She left. Jay lay back on his bed and stared at the ceiling. The stars outside his window moved slowly as the station rotated. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning too. His village, his sea, the dock where his grandmother had taught him to hold a knife. Tomorrow he would learn the proper way to fight with a blade. The galactic way. The way that had been perfected over 400 years. But as he closed his eyes, he could not shake the feeling that something was about to go very wrong. Training Hall 7 was massive. The ceiling stretched so high that Jay could barely see the lights at the top. The floor was covered in soft material that absorbed sound and impact. Around the edges of the hall, weapons hung on the walls. Blades of every shape and size. Some curved, some straight, some with edges on both sides. 50 cadets stood in neat rows. Jay was near the back, between a creature covered in green scales and another that looked like a walking pile of rocks. He felt their eyes on him. The only human in the class stood at the front of the hall. Instructor Velok waited. Velok was Rigelian. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, with pale gray skin and 4 muscular arms. His face had no nose, just 2 slits where a nose should be. His eyes were large and golden, and they saw everything. He wore the black uniform of an academy master, with silver marks on his chest that showed his rank and his victories. Attention, Velok said. His voice was deep and cold. Every cadet straightened their back. Today, we begin your education in blade combat. For 400 years, the Galactic Combat Academy has taught the universal standard grip. This grip was developed by the greatest warriors in our history. It has been tested in countless battles. It has been perfected through the blood of thousands. It is not a suggestion. It is not a theory. It is truth. Velok picked up a training blade from a rack beside him. The blade was silver and slightly curved, with a wrapped handle and a single sharp edge. Watch carefully, he said. He held the knife in his primary right hand. The blade extended upward from the top of his fist, edge facing outward. His thumb wrapped over the handle, and his fingers curled tight beneath it. The blade pointed forward, like an extension of his arm. This is the universal standard grip. Blade up. Edge out. Maximum reach for slashing. Maximum power for cutting. This is how you hold a knife. Jay watched. His stomach felt tight. That was not how his grandmother had taught him. Velok demonstrated several movements. Wide slashes. Downward cuts. Defensive blocks. His forearms moved in perfect coordination. The blade sang through the air. It was beautiful to watch. Powerful. Precise. But something was wrong. Jay could feel it in his bones. The grip was good for slashing at a distance. But what about close combat? What about fighting in a tight space, like inside a ship? What about grappling? What about stabbing? The way Velok held the knife, the blade pointed away from his body. If someone grabbed his arm, he could not bring the knife back toward them. He would have to rotate his whole arm, losing precious time. And if he needed to stab forward, he would have to change his grip completely. Jay thought about the fishing docks back home. He thought about the knife fights he had seen between drunk fishermen. Nobody held their knife like that. They held it low, blade down, edge facing the enemy, ready to stab, slash, or cut in any direction. His grandmother called it the reverse grip, the survival grip, the grip of someone who expected to fight for their life. Now you will practice, Velok said. Take your training blades. Form the universal standard grip. We begin with basic slashes. Jay picked up a training blade. It felt light in his hand. Wrong. But he formed the grip the way Velok had shown. Blade up, edge out. For 2 weeks, he practiced. Every day, he came to Training Hall 7. Every day, he held the knife wrong. Wrong for him. Wrong for close combat. But right for the academy. His muscles learned the movements. His body adapted. But his mind never stopped questioning. At the end of the second week, Velok announced a practical exam. You will face a training drone, he said. The drone will attack. You will disarm it using the techniques you have learned. You have 60 seconds. Begin. Jay stepped forward when his name was called. The drone hovered in front of him, a floating metal ball with 2 mechanical arms holding training blades. Its sensors glowed red. The drone attacked. It came fast, slashing left and right. Jay blocked with the standard grip, just like he had practiced. But the drone was good. It pushed him back. It found gaps in his defense. And then, without thinking, Jay changed his grip. His hand rotated. The blade dropped. Now it extended from the bottom of his fist, edge facing the drone. The reverse grip. His grandmother's grip. Everything changed. He moved inside the drone's reach. He caught its arm and twisted. His blade came up from below, hitting the drone's joint. The arm went dead. 3 seconds later, he disarmed the second arm. Silence filled the hall. Jay looked up and saw Velok staring at him. The instructor's golden eyes were cold. You changed your grip, Velok said. Yes, instructor. The universal standard grip was not sufficient for you? It was not working, instructor. Velok walked toward him slowly. His forearms hung at his sides. Every cadet in the hall was watching. Humans, Velok said. His voice was quiet but sharp. Your species joined the Galactic Union only 60 years ago. You have much to unlearn. He turned away from Jay. You failed this exam. Return to your place. Jay walked back to the line. His face burned with shame. Or maybe anger. He was not sure which. After class, a young woman approached him in the hallway. She had soft features and wore the white uniform of a medic trainee. Her name tag said Nori. I saw what you did, she said. You changed your grip. Why? Jay hesitated. Then he spoke the truth. The blade edge faces inward in their grip. For slashing, yes. But for close combat? For grappling? You are holding it backwards. You lose reach. You lose leverage. You lose the ability to stab. Nori frowned. But the standard grip has been used for 400 years. And how many soldiers die in close combat during shipboarding? The question hung in the air. Behind them, a voice laughed. Jay turned and saw a tall reptilian creature standing there. Green scales. Yellow eyes. Sharp teeth. This was Cadet Tora, the top student in the blade combat class. A human, Tora said, correcting 400 years of galactic military doctrine? How amusing. Jay did not argue. He just asked a simple question. Then, why does your doctrine have a 23% fatality rate in close-quarters shipboarding? Tora's smile disappeared. Where did you hear that number? I read it. In the Academy Library. Battle reports from the last 50 years. Tora stepped closer. His breath was hot on Jay's face. You think you know better than our masters? Better than warriors who have fought and died for this doctrine? I think, Jay said quietly, that if 23 out of every 100 soldiers die, maybe something is wrong. Tora's eyes narrowed. Meet me in the pit tonight, after midnight. Let us see if your backwards grip can save you there. He walked away without waiting for an answer. Nuri looked at Jay with wide eyes. The pit? That is where cadets fight for real. No rules, no protection. You could get hurt. Jay watched Tora disappear around a corner. Good, he said. Then maybe I can prove my point. The pit was hidden deep below the academy, in tunnels that did not appear on any official map. Jay followed Nuri through narrow passages lit by dim red lights. The air was warm and smelled like metal and sweat. I cannot believe I'm helping you do this, Nuri whispered. You could get expelled. Or killed. Then why are you helping me? Nuri did not answer right away. Finally, she said, because I saw the way you fought that drone. It was different. It was right. I want to see if you can do it again. They reached a heavy metal door. Nuri knocked 3 times, then twice, then once. The door opened. Inside was a large circular room carved from the station's rock. The floor was covered in sand. Around the edges, stone benches held dozens of cadets from different species. Their eyes reflected the torchlight. At the center of the room, a fighting circle had been drawn in the sand. Everyone turned to look at Jay. The human came, someone said. Laughter rippled through the crowd. Tor stood in the fighting circle, waiting. His green scales looked darker in the torchlight. In his hand, he held a training blade. His grip was perfect. The universal standard grip. I thought you might run away, Tora said. Most humans would. Jay walked into the circle. Myrae was there in the crowd. She shook her head slowly, her eyes full of worry. Jay gave her a small nod. He had made his choice. A large creature with gray skin stepped forward. He seemed to be the referee. The rules are simple, he announced. Training blades only. First to 3 contact points wins. A contact point is any strike that would draw blood if the blade were real. Do you understand? Both fighters nodded. Begin. Tora moved first. He was fast. Much faster than the drone had been. His blade swept through the air in a wide arc, aimed at Jay's neck. Jay stepped back just in time. The blade passed so close, he felt the wind on his skin. Tora did not stop. He pressed forward, slash after slash, using all the power of his strong reptilian body. His footwork was perfect. His angles were perfect. 400 years of doctrine flowed through every movement. Jay blocked and dodged, but he could not find an opening. Tora was too good. Then Tora's blade caught Jay's left arm. 1 point, the referee called. Tora leads. The crowd cheered. Jay looked down at his arm. If the blade had been real, he would be bleeding now. Tora smiled, showing his sharp teeth. Your grandmother cannot help you here, human. Something changed inside Jay. He remembered the fishing docks. He remembered the fights he had seen. He remembered his grandmother's voice. When you cannot beat them at their game, she used to say, make them play yours. Jay changed his grip. His hand rotated. The blade dropped, extending from the bottom of his fist. Edge facing out. The reverse grip. His body relaxed. This felt right. Tora laughed. What is that? You hold it like a child. Jay did not answer. He moved forward. Tora slashed again, confident. But this time, Jay did not step back. He stepped forward, inside the arc of Tora's blade. Suddenly, they were close. Too close for Tora's wide slashes. Jay's blade came up from below. It touched Tora's chest. 1 point, the referee called. Tied. The crowd went quiet. Tora's eyes widened. He tried to create distance, but Jay followed him. Close. Always close. In this range, the standard grip was awkward. Tora could not slash properly. He could not get his blade into position fast enough. Jay saw an opening. His blade swept across Tora's inner wrist. 2 points. Jay leads. Now the crowd was murmuring. This was not supposed to happen. A human was winning. A human with a strange grip and no formal training. Tora roared and attacked with fury. His movements became wild, desperate. He grabbed for Jay's arm with his free hand, trying to grapple. But that was exactly what Jay wanted. In grappling range. The standard grip was useless. Tora's blade pointed away from Jay's body. He could not bring it back without releasing his grip. He was trapped by his own doctrine. Jay twisted his body. He trapped Tora's knife arm against his own chest. His blade came up and pressed against Tora's throat. 3 points, the referee said slowly. The human wins. Complete silence. Jay released Tora and stepped back. His heart was pounding. His hands were shaking. But he had won. Tor stood frozen, his golden eyes wide with shock. For a long moment, he just stared at Jay. Then, slowly, he lowered his blade. Where did you learn that? Tora asked. His voice was different now. The arrogance was gone. Jay took a breath. My grandmother. She cleaned fish for 60 years. She knew how to hold a knife. Someone laughed in the crowd, but it died quickly. Because everyone had seen what happened. Everyone had seen a human beat the top cadet using a grip that broke every rule they had been taught. Myra pushed through the crowd and grabbed Jay's arm. We need to go, before someone reports this. But before they could move, a voice spoke from the shadows. Stay. The crowd parted. Instructor Velok stepped into the torchlight. Jay's blood went cold. How long had Velok been watching? How much had he seen? Velok walked slowly into the fighting circle. His forearms hung at his sides. His golden eyes studied Jay like he was looking at something new. Something unexpected. You fought well, Velok said. Jay did not know what to say. He waited for the punishment, for the anger, for the lecture about human arrogance. Instead, Velok reached out with one of his hands. He picked up Jay's training blade from the sand. Show me that grip again, he said. Everyone watched as Jay demonstrated. The reverse grip. Blade down. Edge out. The way his grandmother had taught him. Velok studied it for a long time. His face showed nothing. Then he looked up at Jay. Come to my quarters tomorrow. After the evening meal. We need to talk. He handed back the blade and walked away, disappearing into the shadows as quietly as he had come. The crowd began to scatter. Cadets whispered to each other as they left. Tora approached Jay one more time. You made me look like a fool, he said. Jay tensed, ready for another fight. But Tora held out his hand. A human gesture. He must have learned it somewhere. A fool who learned something, Tora added. Perhaps you are not as stupid as I thought. Jay shook his hand. Perhaps you are not as smart as you thought. For the first time, Tora smiled. A real smile, not a mocking one. Perhaps, he agreed. Perhaps none of us are. He walked away, leaving Jay standing in the empty pit with Myra and Nori. What just happened? Nori asked. Jay looked down at the training blade in his hand. He thought about his grandmother. He thought about the fishing docks. He thought about 400 years of doctrine that had never been questioned. I think, he said slowly. Something is about to change. Instructor Velok's quarters were nothing like Jay expected. The walls were covered in old weapons. Blades from a dozen different worlds hung in neat rows. Some were beautiful, with jeweled handles and curved edges. Others were simple and rough, made for work, not show. Jay stood in the doorway, afraid to enter. "Come in," Velok said. He sat at a low table in the center of the room. "Close the door." Jay obeyed. The door shut with a soft click. They were alone. "Sit," Velok said, pointing to a cushion across from him. Jay sat. His heart was beating fast. He still did not know why he was here. Was this punishment? A warning? Something worse? Velok poured 2 cups of dark liquid from a pot. He pushed one toward Jay. "Drink. It will calm your nerves." Jay picked up the cup. The liquid smelled like herbs and earth. He took a small sip. It was warm and bitter, but not unpleasant. Velok watched him with those golden eyes. "You are afraid." "Yes, instructor." "Good. Fear keeps you alert. But you do not need to fear me. Not tonight." Jay waited. He did not trust himself to speak. Velok reached into his robe and pulled out a training blade. He held it in the universal standard grip, blade up. "Edge out. This grip," he said, "has been taught at this academy for 400 years. Every cadet learns it. Every soldier uses it. It is considered perfect." He paused. "It is not perfect." Jay blinked. "Instructor? Show me your grip again." Slowly. Jay picked up a blade from the table. He formed the reverse grip. Blade down. Edge out. He held it steady. Velok leaned forward and studied it carefully. His 4 hands moved around Jay's grip, examining every angle. "Remarkable," he said softly. "After all this time, I do not understand, instructor." Velok sat back. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he began to speak. 400 years ago, when this academy was founded, there were 2 schools of blade combat. 2 philosophies. 2 ways of holding the knife. Jay listened. The first school taught the grip you see today. The standard grip. It was designed for dueling, for fighting at arm's length, for wide, powerful slashes. The warriors of this school were elegant. They fought with beauty and precision. Velok's voice grew heavier. The second school taught something different. A grip designed for close combat, for fighting in tight spaces, for shipboarding and hand-to-hand battle. The warriors of this school were not elegant. They were brutal. They were effective. They won. What happened to them? Jay asked. Politics. The word came out like poison. The first school was led by nobles, wealthy families, people with power. The second school was led by common soldiers, dock workers, miners, people who knew how to fight because they had to fight to survive. Velok stood up and walked to the wall of weapons. He touched one of the simpler blades, old and worn. The nobles won, not in combat, but in politics. They convinced the Galactic Council that the standard grip was superior, more civilized, more proper. The second school was banned. Its teachings were erased. Its warriors were forgotten. He turned back to Jay. And for 400 years, soldiers have died in close combat because they held their knives wrong. Jay felt cold. 23%. You read the reports. Yes, 23% fatality rate in close-quarters shipboarding. The highest of any combat type. And no one asked why. No one questioned the doctrine. Because the doctrine was perfect. The doctrine was sacred. Velok sat down again. He looked older now, tired, until a human from a fishing village showed up with a grip he learned from his grandmother. Jay thought about Halmione Bong. He thought about the rainy docks. He thought about her rough hands and her sharp eyes. She taught me because she wanted me to survive, he said. She said a knife is not for showing off. It is for staying alive. She was wise. Velok picked up his cup and drank. He seemed to be thinking hard about something. I have been an instructor for 50 years, he said finally. I have taught thousands of students. I have followed the doctrine without question. But I have also read the reports. I have seen the numbers. I have watched good soldiers die because their training failed them. He set down his cup. And I did nothing. Because I was afraid. Afraid to question. Afraid to be wrong. Afraid to admit that everything I taught was built on a lie. It was not a lie, Jay said. It was just incomplete. Velok looked at him with surprise. You are kind. My grandmother would have said the same thing. She never blamed people for not knowing. She only blamed them for refusing to learn. Something changed in Velok's eyes. Something softened. Your grandmother sounds like a remarkable woman. She was. Jay remembered her then. Really remembered. Not just her lessons, but her face. Her laugh. The way she smelled like salt and fish and something warm underneath. He remembered one day in particular. He was 10 years old. It was raining hard, and they were alone on the dock, cleaning the morning catch. His hands were cold, and he kept dropping the knife. Hold it properly, she had said. Not angry, patient. I'm trying, Hermione. She had taken his hand in hers. Positioned the knife. Blade down. Edge out. The blade is your extension. It goes where your enemy does not expect. It moves when they think you are still. It strikes when they think you are weak. I am not fighting anyone, Hermione. I am just cleaning fish. She had laughed then. A dry, rough laugh. You are always fighting, child. Life is a fight, and those who hold their knives properly survive. Jay came back to the present. Velok was watching him. Where did you go? The instructor asked. Home, for a moment. Velok nodded. He understood. I have a request, Velok said. It is not an order. You can refuse. What is it? Teach me. Teach me the grip your grandmother taught you. Not as instructor to student, but as one warrior to another. Jay stared at him. You want me to teach you? 400 years of knowledge was lost because powerful people were too proud to learn from common people. I will not make the same mistake. Jay thought for a moment. Then he nodded. I will teach you, he said. On one condition. Name it. Help me change the curriculum. Help me bring back the second school. Not just for me. For all the soldiers who will die if nothing changes. Velok was silent for a long time. Jay could see the war inside him. Fear against hope. Pride against wisdom. Tradition against truth. Finally, Velok stood. He walked to the wall and took down the old, worn blade. He held it out to Jay. This blade belonged to my grandfather. He was a common soldier. He died in a shipboarding action 70 years ago. He held his knife the way they taught him. The standard way. Velok's voice broke slightly. If he had known your grandmother's grip, maybe he would have survived. Jay took the blade. It was heavy with history. Then let us make sure others do survive, he said. Velok nodded. We begin tomorrow, together. 6 months passed faster than Jay expected, though the changes came slowly at first. Velok began teaching both grips in his classes. Some cadets complained. Some instructors questioned him. But when the training results started coming in, the complaints grew quieter. Cadets who learned the reverse grip performed 40% better in close combat simulations. Shipboarding exercises saw fewer injuries. The numbers spoke louder than tradition. Word spread through the academy, then through the military, then to the Galactic Council itself. Now it was time for the annual Galactic Military Exhibition. Jay stood backstage with his team. Tora was there, his green scales polished for the occasion. Nuri had crossed over from medical training to combat training, and she stood with confidence she did not have 6 months ago. Myray completed the group, her eyes sharp and ready. "Are you nervous?" Nuri asked Jay. "Yes." "Good," Tora said. "Nervous people do not make stupid mistakes. Confident people do." Myray laughed. "When did you become wise?" "When a human with a fishing knife beat me in the pit." They all smiled. It was strange how much had changed. 6 months ago, they had been strangers. Now they were a team. A family, almost. Instructor Velok appeared beside them. He wore his formal uniform with all his medals. But his eyes were on Jay. "The council is watching," Velok said. "Representatives from 12 star systems, admirals, generals, politicians. They came to see if the old ways still work. And we will show them they do not." Jay said, "We will show them something better." The signal came. It was time. The team walked onto the main stage. The exhibition hall was enormous, bigger than any room Jay had ever seen. Thousands of spectators filled the seats. Cameras floated in the air, broadcasting to billions across the galaxy. At the center of the stage, a mock ship had been built. It looked like the inside of a transport vessel, with narrow corridors and tight spaces. Perfect for close combat. On the other side of the stage, 4 veteran soldiers waited. They were professionals from the Galactic Defense Force. Each had more than 20 years of combat experience. They held their blades in the universal standard grip. A voice echoed through the hall. "Today we demonstrate the effectiveness of adaptive grip doctrine, developed by Instructor Velok and Cadet Park J of the Galactic Combat Academy. The challenge, a 4-on-4 shipboarding simulation. Training blades. Full contact. No other rules." The crowd murmured. This was not a typical exhibition match. This was real. Jay looked at his team. They nodded. They were ready. Begin. Both teams entered the mock ship from opposite ends. The corridors were narrow, barely wide enough for 2 people. The lighting was dim. This was not a place for elegant dueling. This was a place for survival. Jay moved first. He held his blade in the reverse grip. Blade down, edge out. His body stayed low, ready to move in any direction. They met the veterans at a corridor junction. The fight was brutal. The veterans were skilled. Their slashes were powerful and precise. In an open space, they might have won easily. But in these tight corridors, their standard grip worked against them. They could not swing wide. They could not create distance. Tora crashed into the first veteran, trapping the man's blade arm and driving his own knife into the man's chest. The veteran's blade pointed uselessly away, unable to counter. Nuri faced a woman with cold eyes and silver hair. The woman slashed high, but Nuri ducked low and came up inside her guard. Her blade touched the woman's throat. Myray fought 2 at once. She used the walls, bouncing off them, staying close, never letting the veterans use their reach advantage. One by one, she tagged them both. Jay faced the veteran leader. A big man with scars on his face and murder in his eyes. He came at Jay hard, pushing him back down a corridor. "Clever trick," the man growled. But tricks only work once. He changed his tactics. Instead of slashing, he began to grapple, trying to use his size advantage. He grabbed Jay's knife arm and twisted. But Jay had trained for this. His grandmother had trained him for this. He let his body go loose. He flowed with the grapple instead of fighting it. And as the man pulled him close, Jay's blade came up from below. It touched the man's heart. "Match over," the voice announced. "Victory to the adaptive grip team." Silence. Then applause. Then roaring. The crowd was on its feet. Thousands of voices echoed through the hall. On the screens, the replay showed what had happened. 4 experienced veterans, defeated by 4 cadets in less than 2 minutes. Jay stood breathing hard. His team gathered around him. They had done it. After the exhibition, a tall figure approached Jay, an admiral. Her uniform was covered in more medals than Jay could count. Her eyes were sharp and curious. "Cadet Park J," she said. "I am Admiral Song of the Galactic Council Defense Committee." Jay saluted. "Admiral, your species has been part of the Galactic Union for 60 years. In that time, you have contributed little to military doctrine." Until now, she studied him for a long moment. 400 years of teaching corrected by a boy with a fishing knife. What else have we been doing wrong? Jay remembered his grandmother's words. Do not blame people for not knowing. Only blame them for refusing to learn. He smiled. "How much time do you have?" Admiral Song laughed. It was a real laugh full of surprise and something like respect. "I think," she said, "I am going to like working with humans." 1 year later, Jay stood at the front of Training Hall 7. He wore an instructor's uniform now, black with silver marks. The same uniform Velok had worn when Jay first arrived. 50 cadets stood in neat rows before him. New recruits from across the galaxy. Some had 4 arms. Some had scales. Some had tentacles. And 3 of them were human. Jay held up a training blade. "Forget everything you think you know about holding a knife," he said. "The grip you have seen in movies, in textbooks, in 400 years of doctrine. It is wrong." The cadets stared at him. "Today, I am going to teach you a better way. A way that was forgotten for 400 years because powerful people thought they knew better than common people. A way that was kept alive in a small fishing village on a planet called Earth by an old woman who cleaned fish for 60 years. He formed the grip. Blade down, edge out. The way Halmeoni Bong had taught him on a rainy dock when he was just a child. This is how my grandmother held a knife. And this is how you are going to hold yours." He looked out at the faces of his students, young, eager, ready to learn. "Now," he said, "let us begin." Outside the window, the stars turned slowly as the station rotated. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning too. His village, his sea, the dock where everything had started. Jay smiled. His grandmother would have been proud.